Okay, let's dive into this. Imagine, for just a second, the sheer logistical nightmare of trying to govern a country as vast and, well, as deeply diverse as India, all from a single centralized office. I mean, you were talking about hundreds of thousands of distinct villages. Each one has its own unique challenges, its own ecosystems, and highly specific community needs. So how do you actually ensure that a road gets paved in a remote hamlet, or that clean water reaches a community literally hundreds of miles away from the capital city? Well, the answer isn't more centralized power. Actually, it's decentralized action. Welcome to this explainer, where we are going to unpack the massive, incredibly complex, yet brilliantly designed machinery that makes rural democracy work, the Panchayati Raj system.
To make the most of our time, we've broken this massive topic down into 5 really clear stages for you. We'll cover the introduction to local self-government, the 73rd constitutional amendment, the 3-tier governance structure, mapping Articles 243A through 243O, and finally, powers, functions, and finances.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, Introduction to Local Self-Government, the Grassroots Foundation. So, before we get completely lost in the constitutional weeds, we really need to understand the basic philosophy driving this whole thing. The Panchayati Raj is, at its absolute core, the system of local self-government and rural administration in India. But hey, don't just gloss over that phrase, local self-government. That is the magic key here. It means physically transferring the power of decision-making away from those distant state capitals and placing it directly into the hands of the people who actually live in these villages. It's all about empowering the grassroots level so that local communities have the legal authority and the resources to manage their own affairs, build their own infrastructure, and resolve their own civic issues. Moving right along to Section 2, the 73rd Constitutional Amendment, Legal Bedrock. Now, you might be wondering, hasn't the idea of village councils or panchayats existed in India for centuries? Well, yes, absolutely, but they weren't always a formalized, legally binding system. Previously, local governments basically existed at the whim of state governments. They lacked regular elections, they lacked adequate representation, and most importantly, they lacked constitutional status. But that all changed. The real turning point hit with the 73rd Amendment of the Constitution. This right here is the bedrock. Passed in 1992, it officially formalized local self-government. It mandated the creation of the Panchayati Raj system across the entire country. It added a brand new Part 9 to the Constitution and essentially forced the devolution of power. It literally transformed local governance from just a nice idea into an absolute constitutional requirement. Let's look at Section 3, the 3-tier governance structure, gears of the engine. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how the power flows. I mean, how do you physically structure a system that covers hundreds of millions of people? You break it down into a cascading hierarchy from the top down. Up at Step 1, the top level, we have the Zilla Parishad, operating right at the district level. They act as that vital link between the state government and the lower local bodies, coordinating the big major development plans. Moving down to Step 2, we hit the block level with the Panchayat Samiti. You can kind of think of them as the crucial middle management layer, implementing schemes and connecting the district down to the villages. And finally, at Step 3, the foundational layer, we have the Gram Panchayat and the Gram Sabha at the village level itself. The Gram Sabha is basically the assembly of all registered voters in the village, making it the purest form of direct democracy, while the Gram Panchayat is the executive committee elected by them to get the actual day-to-day work done. Time for Section 4, mapping Articles 243A to 243O, the rulebook tricks. Okay, let's see how all this builds into the specific legal framework. For any of you sitting for competitive exams right now, you know this next part is where the real points are won or lost. Memorizing the exact provisions from Article 243A all the way down to 243O, yeah, that can feel incredibly overwhelming. It's just a dense alphabet soup of legal jargon. But there is a strategic way to lock this into your memory. Get ready to take a mental screenshot because we are going to look at a trick that organizes these articles so logically you won't ever have to blindly memorize them again. What's really genuinely interesting here is how the Constitution logically sequences the creation of a government. Look at the flow of this matrix. It's like a giant puzzle. It starts with Article 243A, which establishes the Gram Sabha. That's the people themselves, the foundation. Well, once you have the people, you obviously need to build a system, right? So Article 243B mandates the constitution of the panchayats. Then 243C outlines their composition, how they are actually put together. After forming them, you absolutely must ensure fairness, which leads right into Article 243D, guaranteeing the reservation of seats for marginalized communities and women. From there, 243E sets the duration, ensuring a fixed 5-year term so power isn't just held indefinitely. And the list just continues sequentially all the way down to 243.0, which bars courts from interfering in electoral matters. If you trace the logical life cycle of a government, gathering the assembly, forming the body, structuring it, ensuring equality, setting a timer, and defining its powers, the alphabetical order of Articles 243A to O suddenly makes perfect intuitive sense.
And lastly, Section 5, Powers, Functions, and Finances, running the engine.
Now, it's one thing to have a beautifully structured constitutional rulebook, but a government without money or real power, that's just an empty shell. The engine actually runs on three core components. First, granted powers. The Constitution specifically added the 11th schedule, which grants Panchayats authority over 29 functional items. We're talking everything from agriculture and rural housing to drinking water and poverty alleviation programs. Second, operational functions. This is the day-to-day administration, executing those 29 subjects to directly improve village life. But so, the crucial point is, none of that happens without the third component, financial provisions. To ensure these local bodies aren't just constantly begging the state for every single rupee, the Constitution mandates the creation of a state finance commission every 5 years. This commission reviews the financial position of the panchayats and recommends exactly how taxes, tolls, and grants and aid should be distributed. It ensures the grassroots government is financially empowered to actually take action.
Which brings us to a final, absolutely essential question to leave you with today. What is the true power of grassroots administration? We've looked at the articles, we've broken down the three-tier structure, and we've mapped the financial setups. But when you take a step back from the exam notes and the dense legal matrices, the true power of this entire system is that it turns ordinary citizens into active architects of their own destiny. It proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the most effective solutions to local problems don't come from a desk hundreds of miles away. They come directly from the community itself. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer on the Panchayati Raj System. Keep reviewing those notes and keep learning.